Sitting over at Firehouse Sub, and we learned a lot about the art of the computer and technology and all of that. So I think today we're going to actually air a rerun. So we're going to air a rerun and going to watch the things that happened with our guy from Ireland and all of that. So that's what we're about to bring you. But it is definitely a sunny day here in North Carolina. Definitely, folks are glad that that stimulus package has been passed and are definitely looking forward to hearing more about when it will get to us and all of that. So in the meantime, we're going to air this rerun, and hopefully folks will enjoy hearing about J.J. Clark and all the things that he was involved in Ireland and some of the things that they have been going through as well. So that's what we're going to do on this particular afternoon, and I'll figure out what I'm going to do for Mullins Music and Memories later on as well. And we may come back with some more details and some more information, but in the meantime, let's show a shared screen and bring you Mullins Music and Memories thoughts later. But right now, we're going to bring you the radio show with Marc Lee and bring you this particular episode. So hopefully you all will enjoy this. I did good. Just like my mama. This is my work schedule this week, and you know where I'm going to be when you get home. This is what else I got going on, and then, okay, it's all right. You know. Got to get those new logos, but yes, you are in tune to IBM TV. Of course, that is the International Broadcast Media Television, and of course, we've got a number of things that are going on in the community and around the world. So, of course, we're paying attention to a lot of these things that are happening. As many of you know, I am definitely connected to the Hayti Heritage Center and do a lot of great events over there. As a matter of fact, they had Black Santa Claus over there on this past weekend in an appointment only kind of venture. So, like I said, there were a few families that came by there and definitely had a good time in all of that event. So that was a real fun event that folks were checking out and were enjoying. So a number of folks were checking that out and really having a good time. And of course, folks are paying attention to what's going on here in this area with all of this going on, of course, waiting for the new administration to take place, and that'll be taking place in January with Biden coming into office, and we'll find out what kind of changes he'll be making. We're seeing he's already appointing folks to his staff and things along that line. So definitely looking forward to finding that out. And of course, folks are paying attention to what's going on with the economy, their personal economies, as well as other economies as well. So definitely a lot of things are going on in that sense. And as I said, I've definitely been involved in the Hayti Heritage Center, but I've also been involved in the radio. I've been involved in radio since I was a teenager. Definitely got involved back when my folks started a community radio station when I was a teenager, and they started that. I was actually a preteen now that I think about it and everything. So I got involved in radio. That's actually why the folks here at the International Broadcast Media found out about my podcasting background and about my radio background and thought that I would be a great host for this particular show as well as for a few other ones. So definitely glad to do that. Been involved in a number of radio stations, never any commercial radio stations, but I have worked on college radio, worked in community radio, and at a lot of venues like that. I've actually got the pleasure of bringing in a gentleman on this conversation, and we're going to talk about radio and how things are going in his neck of the woods. Because I've got JJ on, and he's actually from Ireland. So we're going to have a conversation with him about Irish radio, about music in general, and things of that nature. So I'm about ready to bring JJ in, and we'll have this conversation right now.
Mark, how's it going?
How are you doing, JJ? How's everything going?
Pretty good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. Glad that you were able to join me here and everything. Like I said, this is an international broadcast media network, and we do a lot of really cool things here, have all kinds of programming. It's become like an internet TV network and all of that. But when I saw you on LinkedIn and saw that you were in Dublin, Ireland, and we're doing radio there, I'm always interested in catching up with the other folks that are doing radio in other parts of the world and things along that line. So if you'll just share a little bit about yourself, your radio background, like I was telling the folks, and some of them have heard the story before. I actually got involved in radio when my folks were frustrated by what they did not hear on our local radio stations because they're big jazz fans and things of that nature, and they were not hearing enough jazz in their mind. So they decided to create a jazz radio station that lasted for about, I want to say it lasted for about 12 years here in North Carolina, and was in a rural part of North Carolina, the town called Warrenton, and it eventually moved to Rocky Mount. But they did that radio for a number of years, and that was in like the mid 70s to like the late 80s. So that's my first got started in radio, but then I've done work now at COM, which is a community radio station in Carrboro, and I've also worked at WNCU, which is a radio station connected with North Carolina Central University, one of our HBCUs, or historically Black college and universities here and everything. So that's some of my radio background. And of course, I also did radio when I was in college at Marquette. So I went to a good old-fashioned Jesuit university and had the pleasure of doing some radio in that environment. So, and I've got friends that have worked in commercial radio, but I've never had the pleasure of actually working in commercial radio, but I've got definitely friends that have been in that field. So I'd love to hear how you got into radio and a little bit about your own background and how things are going in Dublin.
Sure. So Ireland really has a strong relationship with radio. It's Irish people listen to radio all the time, and they would have a kind of designated radio station. There's a national broadcaster, which is RTE. You guys don't have that in the States, but they have it in Britain, which is the BBC. They're like one central. It might be what NPR might be your equivalent.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a really strong relationship with radio in Ireland, and so I suppose I'm currently working for a two radio stations. So I'm working for two commercial radio stations. They're both under the same umbrella, one's Talk and one's 98 FM. I'm working as a producer on one show and then a researcher on another, and then I'm also doing a media degree at the same time. I would have trained as in psychology. So I did a bachelor's in psychology, and then I went away traveling, and then I came back, and similar to you, I got into community radio. So very small steps initially. So I would have started. I came in and I was sort of typing up the news at 2, 3, and 4 in Dublin City FM, which is a really small radio station, and it's community based. And so I would hand the guy who's reading the news the sheet. That was my job initially. And I did that for about 2 weeks before I think the CEO of the place said, like, you've been here long enough, you should probably start, reading the news yourself. And so I got into reading the news. And then after about 6 weeks of doing that, I asked if I could do my own show. And I was given 3 areas. Now, I can't think of the third, but the 2 choices I had were rap music or healthy living. And so those are the topics. And I went with the healthy living. And so I did a show every week from then on for the next year and a half, like a 30-minute long show. And it was really good. It was really good for honing my interviewing skills. And I suppose for people who aren't in radio or like haven't interviewed anyone before, when you're interviewing someone, what do you do beforehand? Like, no one tells you, like, oh, you're going to have to chat with them beforehand. It's going to be a little bit awkward, and you're going to have to shake their hand, and you're going to have to kind of talk about the topic before you go into the interview, where it's live on radio. And so there's loads of things like that where I just kind of cut my teeth and figured that out over that time. But then I found that there was a bit of, like, there's a big gap between the standards in community radio and then in commercial radio. It's just a different ball game, and you really have to network a lot to get in. I suppose I was fortunate in that I kind of went away then. I kind of took a little bit of break from community radio, and then I came back and I did the course. And the teachers on the course, it was kind of like I don't know how to describe it. It's like a free course provided by the government. And a lot of the teachers on it and lecturers on it were in radio and were presenters. And as part of that course, I got into a volunteer radio station in a commercial radio station. So they have, Communicorp has a digital radio station where they sort of vet you as a presenter or whatever role you're in, but then they get to see you on air and they get to kind of create their own presenters. And so I got through there, started doing odd jobs here and there, kind of just shadowing. There wasn't a lot of money in the start, like, literally just helping out where I can, calling people before a show and asking them if they would be guests on the show. And through then I got the two jobs. They're freelance positions at the moment, but like, it's great. Yeah. Like, as in, I really enjoy it, and I'm just happy to keep going.
It sounds like you're really enjoying the work that you're doing and everything. Now, here in the States, in the United States, there's a lot of the radio stations unfortunately fall under like maybe one or two or a few umbrellas of networks and everything. So is it the same kind of thing in Ireland? Like here, Clear Channel owns a lot of the radio stations. Radio One owns a lot of the urban stations and things of that nature. So are there like these umbrella organizations that own a lot of the radio in Ireland, or are they more independent?
Yeah, well, there's a little bit of a variety, but no, there is huge umbrella organizations. So the two stations I work for are owned by a company called Communicorp. Then there's the national broadcaster has a load of affiliate channels. But no, Ireland's a small country. You have to put it in context. Like, there's 4.5 million people, and then in the Republic of Ireland, and then 1.5 in the north. So there's not a lot of people. Like, that's probably the same, less than the metropolitan area of New York.
Right.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
So yeah, I think that I suppose there is some individual radio stations, and there's a lot of, I don't know if your viewers might know this, but the Irish language is quite strong in Irish radio. So there's a mandated, amount of time given to Irish radio broadcasting, so that speaking in Gaelic and Gaeilge, yeah. So that's kind of cool. They would have a few individual channels, but again, they would fall under the national broadcaster.
Gotcha. What have been some of the biggest challenges in Irish radio that you've seen, and what are some of the similarities to some of the challenges that folks might be facing here in the United States or even around the globe? Because, like I said, the international broadcast media is a global network. So I know one of the people that we have does a show out of Johannesburg, and she does a whole singer-songwriter type show. And then we've got folks that are doing shows out of Malaysia and a number of other places. But what are some of the challenges that you found as a radio announcer in Ireland, and what are some of the things that you found similar or different from what you imagine would be in other parts of the globe?
Well, I suppose the challenges in general is that it's a job where you get to sit on your arse and talk, and that's like, as in, that's compared with other jobs, that's like a dream. And so there's a limited amount of positions for presenters, and then presenters is the goal. So it depends if you want to be a producer or a researcher, or an assistant program director or a director, or a program director. There's a lot of jobs there, but if you want to be a presenter, and you really have to be really excellent at conveying with words your whether if you're funny, or if you're a straight talker, or if you're the interviewer that really cuts to the heart of the topic. I think there's huge competition in Ireland. 87% of Irish people listen to radio Monday to Friday. So like, that is just like per capita, that's huge. So there's huge competition, and I mean, it's a really nice job just to be able to talk for a living. I think that globally, I think the challenges would probably be convergent media. So the fact that anyone can create a podcast now, right, is a challenge. The fact that if I want to look up surfboard shaping, there's probably a YouTube channel dedicated to that, and if that's my specific interest, then a radio host or a radio channel who are doing current affairs and sort of broadcasting rather than narrowcasting, and they're at a loss, because you have like these intruders coming in, like Joe Rogan, or just excellent podcasts coming through, NPR, Ira Glass, like that. They're just so individual in nature and in topic that it's really hard to compete, and you can listen to them whenever. And I suppose radio's catching up in that sphere, that they're podcasting everything. But yeah, convergent media, the fact that as well, you sort of, as a presenter, you have to be au fait with social media. So you have to be like if you're a music presenter in Ireland, even if you're if you're slightly older, you still have to be on TikTok, and these are the challenges of I suppose CHR, like chart hit radio, and like music based radio. It depends whether you're talking about talk or if you're talking about music radio. But convergent media, the fact that broadcasting has been democratized, I think that's a huge challenge.
Yep. And what has been some of the bigger stories that have been taking place in Ireland? Like I said, I know that on the network we've heard from different parts of the globe. I don't know that we've heard that much from Ireland, even though we did have some folks from London and other places that are near you that have been talking. But of course, everybody's concerned about the pandemic globally. But in addition to the pandemic, what are some of the other issues that folks are finding out about in Ireland that they're really concentrating on in addition to the pandemic? And how are y'all handling the pandemic?
With pandemic, I suppose we're quite like it's hard to say, because every so often your country is either doing, like, for example, your country could be doing badly in terms of infection rates, or it could be doing really well in terms of low infection rates, and you're comparing it to, say, for example, I don't know, like New Zealand seems to be a shining light in pandemic times. But I mean, there's a lot of, I suppose there's a lot of mudslinging in terms of, politicians breaking regulations, famous people breaking regulations. Right. It seems to be a big thing, where it's sort of trial by media, where people are getting strung out for. There was a big event in Ireland where a bunch of famous politicians went to a golf club championship or something like that, and there was a lot of resignations and stuff like that. That was pretty big. I'm trying to think. I work in a current affairs show, so like we have news stories all the time. Vaccine rollout, that's a big one. How will people take the vaccine when it comes and arrives on our shores? These are big concerns with us, and just interaction with the virus seems to be a huge one. And what will we do when we get out of lockdown, I feel, is a huge one. Irish people, the law in Ireland is people are largely obedient to the law. There's good adherence to the law, and so people generally listen to what the government's saying, and which is good. But it doesn't stop the yearning for the pandemic to be over and stuff to go back to normal. Like, you can interview people in person, which is a big one.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to interviewing people in person and everything. I know one of the things that's very big here is we have in North Carolina, a very big, in particular I'm at, what we call the Research Triangle Park area, Durham, Raleigh, and Chapel Hill. We have a very extensive music community and also an extensive theater community. And I know that that's very important to the Irish DNA, I would put it that way, because I've actually had the pleasure of meeting a few Irish musicians. So how are the musicians coping with what's going on, and are folks even still on your radio station listening to a lot of your local musicians? Because I've always been impressed by the Irish sound.
Yeah, I mean, the Irish in recent years, like, you have people like Dermot Kennedy coming through, and like there's a real strong music tradition. So we have a shopping street called Grafton Street, and like there's a real strong busking tradition in our capital city, which is Dublin. And people are really proud of Irish. Not like as in Irish music is popular, but it's not as popular as just music in general. I think the more contemporary styles of music, like Irish hip hop, is a big thing at the moment. Irish dance music is another big thing at the moment. These are things you wouldn't consider when you think about Ireland. But I suppose we do have a strong, I suppose we have a strong sort of relationship with music, particularly when it comes to Irish music. So like the Uilleann pipes, Céilís are sort of like almost like a barn dance, and we have Irish dancing. So there's a lot of there's there's radio stations that are dedicated to that. But yeah, Irish music would be a preference of a lot of people. A lot of people would like Wild Youth is another band that's coming through very strong, or Hosier, for example. But yeah, the Irish, like the radio stations that I like, 98 FM that I work for, they would preferentially treat Irish music. They love like when good Irish music is produced, and pushing it out there, which is great. Yeah, but it would hold center stage on our radio stations. Irish people love to hear Irish like singers doing well, and particularly when Irish bands and singers do well in America, because it's very rare to break America, if you know what I mean.
Yep, definitely. Are there any Irish hip hop artists that have actually come out of Ireland that are doing really well? Because I can't think of any, but I don't know the hip hop scene as well as I probably should know it. But are there any that you've heard that have broken out or making a global name for themselves?
Yeah, like as in, I wish I had some of them to mind. They would have broken the English market, but not so much the like the American market. That's a tougher nut to crack, and I suppose a lot of bands and hip hop artists that make it in America are homegrown or
Right.
Canadian or possibly UK.
Yeah, that's very true and everything. You said that your station and where you work at is a lot of current affairs. What are some of the current affairs events that you've been covering outside of the pandemic? Like I said, I know the pandemic is what a lot of people are concerned about, but I'm sure y'all are trying to find the stories that are not related to the pandemic. So what are some of the things that folks might be interested to know are happening in Ireland, but that we don't know about here in the States?
Yeah, I mean that's the big thing every single morning. So pre show, you would have a pitch meeting where you would pitch your ideas to the producer of the show, and you go around a table and you try and come up with possibly 6 topics for a 2-hour period, and that would be 20 minutes on each topic, and you would be taking callers on those topics. But it just depends on the news day, because there are 24-hour news cycles. But for example, you would have the student nurses. So you would have the student nurses in Ireland don't get paid while they are student nurses, and they can make more money as carers, which is not the same qualification, but they can make more money there than they could as student nurses. Student nurses don't get paid anything for large periods of time. I think it's 6 months in their 3rd year, and I think it's, I'm not sure if it's 4 months in their 4th year. But like, there's a real, I suppose there's real solidarity with the student nurses, because like it's pretty clear and evident, from the pandemic, that like teachers and nurses don't get paid enough. Like that's I suppose a key learning for a lot of us. But yeah, like stories like that would catch your eye, or even just smart ways to get around the pandemic. So sometimes, even if we're trying not to talk about the pandemic, we'll talk about something like, we'll choose a random topic or a survey that's come out. There's a lot of stuff like, for example, in Ireland we had Missing Persons Day last week, and we sort of just went through, with 2 or 3 people, where they lost their relative, what were the circumstances, what were the details, and then at the end we had a forensic scientist on to sort of, give credence and say what can be done in those situations, and what technology is being brought to bear to help out in kind of reopening these cold cases.
Oh, wow. And I know here in the States, a lot of folks have been getting into what we call gig jobs and things of that nature. I imagine it's the same thing there. Like here, we've got DoorDash and Grubhub, which will be people that will deliver food for you. And then there's Uber and Lyft, which are kind of like rideshare programs and things of that nature. But a lot of folks are using that as a way to supplement their income, because we did get those stimulus packages, and they were pretty much gone now. Folks are waiting for the next stimulus package, whatever that might look like. But how were y'all handling the stimulus, and also were a lot of folks doing those gig economy kind of jobs?
Right. Yeah. So it's a good question. We call it, we have it. It's government mandated. So it's the Pandemic Unemployment Payment. So it's PUP. So people just call it the PUP. And there's a lot of people on it. it's been extended and it's been extended because it kicked off here in March for us. And so initially it was people who were making, they did it in a graded system. So people who made over 350 a week were paid at a higher rate. And then people who were working less than 2 days weren't eligible. And it was a whole kind of contorted system. And then the student nurses now that I was just talking about before, they have now been offered by the current government the pandemic unemployment payment. But yeah, it's definitely led to nixers. We call them nixers or cash in hand jobs. Yeah, so people, getting paid cash in hand, so it's tax free. That's probably a thing that's happened more and more. I suppose it's fine if you're on pandemic unemployment payment and you are, single or your spouse is employed. But I mean, if you have 4 kids, you would want to be like 350, especially because the rent in Dublin is astronomical. You would definitely want to, I suppose, have a side hustle, as you Americans say.
And what is the rent like there in Dublin? Because that's why I look back when you said that, because I know here we always complaining about rents being real high. Sometimes even in relatively small cities like Durham, North Carolina, the rents can be up to close to $1,000 or something like that a month. But I was just curious, what kind of rents are we talking about when we're saying that they're high and everything?
Okay, so what is a standard room for you, Mark? Is it a standard room? Is that like a bed sit, like a room, like if you imagine, if you think of a prison cell, like with the single bed in it, that would go for €700 minimum in Dublin. You'd be lucky. It would probably be 900. But yeah, that's the standard, and you probably wouldn't have a washing machine. You probably would have to go somewhere to wash your clothes. Like, it's exorbitant.
Yeah, that sounds definitely exorbitant. Like I said, the one I'm in right now is a 1-bedroom apartment, and it's probably close to like about not quite $1,000 US, but it's close to that and everything. But definitely, there's some folks that are even paying more than that, and some that are paying closer to like 750 for maybe a little bit lower. But definitely, what you're describing would be more like those New York or California rates is the way we would describe them. So more like the bigger urban cities and all of that. So definitely, that's different than what we're paying. How is the sports going in Ireland? I know that Ireland has got definitely a large, I think, soccer population of folks that are rooting for soccer and cricket. Of course, we're here into American football, and basketball season just ended, but we definitely are into those sports, and they were able to do it in the bubble. So are most of the sports there still trying to do the bubble approach and with limited or no audience, or are y'all trying to have an audience of some sort?
So there's no in Ireland at the moment. There is no crowds allowed at any games. You're allowed. Similar to what you would have in America with states, we have counties. So I know that states are subdivided into counties, but Ireland is just divided into counties. So our counties, you would have. We play Gaelic football, and the way I would explain it is it's sort of a cross. Would be a cross between basketball and soccer. So you can pick the ball up and you can kick it out of your hands, and you can pass it with your hands, and you can kind of volleyball punch it to other players and kick it to other players. It's one of 2 national sports in Ireland that are kind of unique to us. We also play hurling. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I've heard about it. I don't know that I've ever seen it. I know that it's definitely a sport that is native to your land and everything. But if you would explain it, I'm sure our listeners would love to know more about that as well.
Right. So it's the fastest team sport in the world, and the ball moves like around so quickly. So it's kind of like a very hard ball called a slither, and basically you use sticks to whack it around the place. It's similar to lacrosse, but you have a flat, like a hockey stick, but with a wider, I suppose, end to it. And I mean, they wear helmets now, but they used to wear helmets up until I think it was the late 1990s. But it's just really a joy to watch, and the level of skill. Like, there's got balls flying through the air at like 60, 70 miles an hour, and people like plucking the ball out of the sky. It's really worth a watch. couldn't recommend it enough. Like it's a really amazing sport, I suppose, for people who haven't seen it before. Like I grew up playing it, but it's fantastic, and it the ball moves around at such a speed that the television cameras find it hard to trace in the air where it is at any one given time. But yeah, I really recommend any of the viewers just check it out. It's a real joy to watch. But apart from that, we're really quite good at rugby. We bet the All Blacks there twice in a row. There 2 years ago and 3 years ago. We're quite proud of it. But soccer wise, we're not up to much. People love soccer though. People because we're so close to the UK. We can, it's half an hour to London at Stansted. So there's a huge support for Manchester United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal. All those teams are like, there's a huge diaspora of fans here in Ireland that love soccer and live and breathe it. NFL, there's also a big fan base here as well. What is North Carolina's team again? What are they called?
The Panthers, the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, when did they last win the Super Bowl?
Oh, it's been like I said, they've been to the Super Bowl a number of times, and I don't think that there's going to be any victories. So it's been a number of years since they've done it because they're an expansion squad. So an expansion squad is not going to get the same love. So who are you rooting for? And by the way, I was going to mention that the Triangle Curling Association, there is a curling association. You'll be glad to know here in the Triangle. Apparently, it's based in Raleigh. So when you were saying curling, I was like, I think I remember there being a local association nearby, but they had Curling Night in America, which was brought to us by USA Curl, apparently NBC, the World Curling Federation, the Triangle Sports Commission, and the U.S. Olympic Committee. So they definitely did have a couple of events that they were doing in the past. I'm guessing all of this was probably, pre-pandemic and everything. And they actually even have youth curling programs here. So they've actually got a Facebook site and everything. So apparently we are trying to get into curling here in this area. So I've just got to find a way to actually learn more about curling and do it myself. Because like I said, I know nothing about the game. So I'm going to have to learn about it and do more. Because apparently we do have a Triangle Curling Association here and everything. And I'm going to look up the Panthers and their last victory. Because in terms of they're not doing that well this year and everything. But do you have a certain team that you root for and everything in terms of football?
Yeah,
Are you like the Pittsburgh fan or a Cowboys fan, or what team do you root for? Have you found a team that is of your liking?
yeah. I mean, like as in Drew Brees' being Saints was one I definitely got behind. Back in the day, New Orleans Saints were fantastic. I mean, everyone loves Tom Brady over here. Everyone knows, like you would know Michael Jordan. Everyone knows Tom Brady. I mean, the Manning brothers are also, well known to a few of us. But yeah. And just with the it's hurling, not curling. So
curling. I'm sorry, I typed up the wrong thing. That's a whole different sport. So
yeah. So there is curling. Curling is really fast, also, but hurling is the one unique to Ireland.
And that's what I thought you had said hurling when you first mentioned the sport and everything. And I'm pretty sure we do not have anything hurling in the Triangle, but I'm going to look that up and see if I'm right because I can't see that having crossed over here yet. But I do know that definitely the curling came over here, but not. Oh, what do you know? There's actually a Gaelic football and hurling club. So we actually also have a hurling club here as well. I just looked it up. It's the RaleighGAA.com. But yes, apparently we have they're having a meeting later today. It says that they will hold their annual general meeting virtually on December 12th. So that'll be later on this week, actually. So they're going to be doing an event, and apparently they are trying to bring hurling here to the area. So they've even got a couple of images and everything. So I guess the Irish are trying to bring us hurling as well. So like I said, know that it's separate from curling, or at least JJ has let me know that and everything. But it looks like we're trying to bring that into the area as well. So it looks like y'all are trying to bring a lot of things here. I know that a lot of folks are big time fans of Irish food because I know that there is definitely even a couple of Irish themed restaurants here in this area and everything. But what are some of the restaurants since you are a big time, or so, what are some of the Irish dishes? I want to ask about restaurants because I don't know when or if I'll ever get to Ireland. But what are some of the restaurants that or foods that you are a big time fan of that are Irish based?
Well, yeah, there's a good few. There's coddle. There's a few standard things that Irish people eat that maybe you wouldn't if you googled Irish dishes are not like considered Irish dishes. But like, I mean, the big fry in the morning. Some people call it the English breakfast. We call it the Irish breakfast. 2 eggs, sausages, rashers, and black pudding. Do you know what black pudding is?
I've heard of the term black pudding, but I'd be lying if I told you I knew exactly what it was. So I'm not going to lie to you that way. So tell me what black pudding is so our listeners can learn more about black pudding. It already sounds delicious, but what is it?
But yeah, it's pig's blood basically, but it is delicious. And then you have white pudding as well, which is the same. It's just a different color. But yeah, it's really really delicious. We have boxty, which is potato pancakes. You've probably heard of them. They're a bit heavy now, and they're kind of things like boxty would be something that's kind of rolled out as an Irish dish. But as an Irish person, I can honestly say that like I've only ever had it like in America. So yeah, there's a couple of them, but Irish people, there's a thing called a chicken fillet roll. I don't know if you've heard. Have you? So a chicken fillet roll is a it's just a baguette with slices of chicken fillet, but they're breaded chicken fillet, and then typically people will get some kind of sauce and some kind of lettuce on it, and maybe tomato ketchup on the top, or but it's a staple. It's a staple for lunchtime in particular, and you get that in maybe a bottle of Coke. Or if you're, for example, if you were to get for breakfast a breakfast roll. So a breakfast roll is it would have all the ingredients of a fry up, so like eggs, sausages, bacon, and melted butter, and all in a baguette. But we would, that would be the kind of the stock and trade of people heading to work in a rush, and they kind of forgot to bring their lunch or whatever. They'll stop in a local shop and grab a roll and eat it on their lap in traffic.
Sounds good. And by the way, the Carolina Panthers never won the Super Bowl. They
Oh,
did
really?
come close twice. They made it to the game in 2003 and 2015. So, like I said, they have had the taste of victory, but never have quite had the victory. They just came close and everything twice, but never won. But I really can't talk about that because one of my favorite teams in football is actually somewhat, their theme is somewhat based on your general area and everything. That being that they're all about Vikings and things of that nature. I know that's a little further north, but I'm a diehard, I'm born in North Carolina. I'm a diehard Minnesota Vikings fan, and we went 4 times to the Super Bowl and never won. So, like I said,
Oh,
so
wow.
I know how that could be. So, like I said, diehard fan. I became a fan back in the Fran Tarkenton era, and have been a fan all my life ever since. So, probably was a teenager when I became a fan, but been rooting for them for the last probably 35, 40 years or so, something like that. And one of those fans that doesn't believe in being a fair weather fan. So I'm going to stick with them, and I'm going to stick with them all the way through. Hopefully, they'll give me a championship one of these years before I go to the next side and everything. But we'll find out whether that happens or not. You had you said that you have been to the States. What what brought you here to the States, and what was it like when you came here, and what did you think of the States when you visited the United States?
So, we do when we're younger, particularly when we're in university. There's a visa we can get that we can work for up to 7 months. And so I worked on a J1 visa. I worked in Texas, in the Badlands of Texas, and just north of Beaumont. So I worked on an alligator ranch for a summer, which was really exciting. Yeah, it was a slight departure from the I suppose the normality of Ireland, but yeah, it was fantastic. We were sort of capturing nuisance gators and using the lasso method, and when people had a gator on their property, we would go and collect it, and we'd have to capture it, and like sometimes these guys were 8-9 foot long, highly aggressive. Yeah, it was amazing. It's an amazing experience. It's sort of, I don't know if you've ever seen the TV show Friday Night Lights.
Uh-huh.
It was very akin to that now. Like it was very similar. I stayed with a family. The daughter that of the family I was living with was the head cheerleader on the team. The son, who was in college, was the high school football star. We used to jog around the block, and people would be pulling up and telling him like, "God, you played amazing last year when you were in high school," and like just it's very TV like, I suppose.
It sounds like it's very much TV like. Now I can't see that y'all have a lot of gators in Ireland, so that would probably a new animal for you to deal with. But what are some of the nuisance animals that y'all have to face with in Ireland, if there are any nuisance animals? Of course, we all know the stories of the potato famine and those vermin that go against cats and everything. But outside of those, what are some of the other vermin that y'all and things that y'all are concerned about animal wise that might be trying to be nuisance animals?
We don't get that many. Like, I mean, we get wasps at the end of the summer, and like sort of yellow bees, and yeah, like mice when it gets cold in November try and get inside the house because it's warm inside the house, but nothing in particular. They really there's nothing in Ireland that can really kill you or that you'd be worried about. Famously, St. Patrick banished the snakes from Ireland. But I mean, were there snakes in Ireland before that? I don't know. But there's not really. You might get mice and foxes if you have chickens and you live in the countryside. You might get chickens, killing your animals. But that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it's very peaceful. Now, for folks that are watching from around the globe that might be thinking that whenever we lift the pandemic, I know my good friend Brandon does a travel show and everything here on the platform and everything. What are some of the things that you think folks should absolutely see if they come to Ireland, but they want to get away from? Well, but one, it's a two-part question. One, what are the tourism places that they will probably be told to go see, and what are some of the places that you would recommend going to that are off the beaten trail? Because I'm one of those folks that believes in going off the beaten trail. I know Brandon does as well, and a number of other folks.
Well, I suppose I would recommend first you probably will get recommended to go to the Cliffs of Moher. I think you should probably do that. I think it's very impressive, very beautiful, these massive, really imposing cliffs. And then I would say that apart from that, you would have just like there's islands off the coast of Galway, which is the west coast of Ireland, and they're the Inish Islands, and so the Aran Islands. So you have Inishmore, which just means big island. Then so that's where the biggest village on the island is, and the people there, the first language is Gaelic, and so they all speak Gaelic, but they all speak English as well. But it's really, really beautiful, and if you catch the weather, it's fantastic. But I mean, just come to Dublin. Like, if you come to Dublin, Irish people are really quite, I don't want to say nosy, but like if you were at a traffic, lights in the city centre and you were chatting to a friend and it was apparent that you and your friend were American, Irish people would be like, "Where are you from?" Like, they would want to know. They're and like in that way, you bump into a lot of people and you have a lot of conversations with Irish people. Irish people are really inquisitive and quite friendly, I think. But yeah, Dublin and Galway. Galway city is a hidden gem. I think if you come to Ireland, you should definitely go to those places.
Sounds like great places to go visit and everything. I know the other thing that definitely folks associate Ireland with is that great beer. Some of it craft beer, some of it the more traditional dishes and traditional drinks, I should say, and things of that nature. So, how are the pubs holding up during the pandemic, and are folks still going to them? And are there any particular drinks that are Irish based that you would recommend folks try? I know that a lot of times when folks give recommendations, they find out that the drink that is the quote unquote national drink isn't as much loved by the folks in that country as you would think. I remember one time I was talking to a guy from Australia and I mentioned Foster's and he was like, Foster's is the worst beer of all time.
Yeah, I mean, Guinness, people love Guinness here as well. Like, I mean, and people who drink Guinness will consider, different pubs, like, because how good, the judge of how good a Guinness is from the keg to the tap, how long that distance is. And so generally, if the distance is short, then it has less time to travel, so it stays cool and there's less impurities in it. And so people are quite particular about that. In terms of other Irish beers, you have like Jameson whiskey. You have a number of different Irish gins distilleries popping up, Irish whiskey distilleries popping up as well. Smithwick's is also really delicious. Kilkenny is another, I suppose it's it's a dark beer. But there's huge competition in the Irish alcohol market, and especially we're exporting it all the time. But no, I think people love Guinness. If you come to Dublin, you can actually smell the hops burning when they're all over the city at certain times of the week, because they're creating, like, they're mixing the ingredients and you can smell it. Um, Mark, I have to go. I'm sorry, but
No, no, you said about 40 minutes, and I know you had to go, so I appreciate you being on and everything. So definitely one of the things that I do on all the shows is I let folks give their like positive message that they would like to share with the world and things of that nature. So definitely I've enjoyed the conversation, learning a little bit more about Ireland and all of that. But I did want to give you the opportunity to let folks know how they can reach you, how they can hear the station globally, because I imagine y'all are also on the internet, on the World Wide Web, and any words of positivity or thoughts that you would like to share with our audience. I'd love for you to do that now, but I did know that you had to bounce off after a while, so I appreciate you giving me the time and appearing for a while.
Yeah, so I'll just so the two commercial stations I work for are newstalk.com and 98fm.com. Check them out. I also do a podcast, The Interested Interview. Check that out. Yeah, I mean, if you're interested in media and radio, my advice would be to start small, perhaps at the community level, and just focus on the process rather than focusing on the result. That is my advice. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you. Definitely great having you on and everything. Glad that you were able to give that advice and everything. Just really quickly, and I know I said the last one was the real quick one. What kind of like general advice would you give just to the world community? Not necessarily that is trying to do radio, but just they're like trying to survive and live. So if you got any quick advice for our general audience that are just folks that are out there trying to survive and live in what's going on in the world.
I would say take a look at history. This isn't the first pandemic. The world has had multiple pandemics. They come and they go, and in 18 months we'll be out. So stay positive.
Sounds great. Thanks a lot, JJ. Appreciate you being on, and look forward to having another conversation with you at a later time. Hopefully we'll get you back in. We actually do a podcasting show on Thursday. So we have podcasters from around the globe. So I may send you an invitation to that as well, and you can meet some other fellow podcasters and people along that line. But definitely glad that you were able to join me for a while, and glad that you were on. And I know that you got to get busy with your radio station there in Ireland, well, both of your radio stations. And I look forward to seeing you back here. And of course, we'll still be chit-chatting on LinkedIn and conversating that way as well. So do want to thank you for joining me here.
Thanks, Mark.
Cool. Well, that was JJ Clark, and he was sharing a little bit about things that I didn't even know about Ireland and things that are going on around Ireland and all of that. I'm expecting some more guests to be coming in a little bit, and we'll see where they are and how things are going with them. But definitely was glad to be able to have JJ on for a while to share a little bit about what's going on in his world, because he is a producer over there at a radio station in Dublin. So I was glad that he was able to share a little bit about what's happening in the world of his world of entertainment and news and all of that. And we did get to see that they are concerned about a number of the same things that we are here in this area. So definitely was interested in hearing that conversation and hearing what he had to say in that regard. So I do know that I'm going to see if Steve Rao, who's one of our regular producers, is going to be able to pop in, because he did say he was going to try to pop in. And I think there were some other folks who were going to be trying to join me as well. And of course, later on this evening, we do have Mullins and Music and Memories, and I'm looking forward to a number of guests being on that show. So definitely looking forward to having some conversations, including with a longtime friend. So looking forward to it. A longtime friend joining me on that, and definitely having a great conversation about a number of things that are going on in their part of the world as well. So definitely looking forward to some great conversations and to folks learning about a number of things that are happening here on the network and all of that. But in the meantime, I do want y'all to be thinking about some of the other great shows that we have here on this network. One of them is about chess stars. So definitely I want y'all to check out about chess stars. So I'm going to put on the chess stars commercial. And by the way, don't forget that there is that World Leader Summit that is going on right now. That is a very important summit, and they are doing some great things. I understand that if you go there, there is a coupon code. I actually had the pleasure of going on and catching a little bit of the things that were going on this morning with my good buddy Ankit. So I was actually chatting with him, but also seeing what was happening with the conference, and he was doing a great job of producing it and all of that. But definitely some great things are happening. That code, by the way, is WLS for World Leadership Summit, the World Leader Summit, that is IBM TV, all in strung together. So those letters would be WLS IBM TV. That is the coupon code, and you will go to worldleadersummit.com. But definitely go there, check out the events. I know that when I was watching it earlier this morning, they were talking about Bitcoins and cryptocurrency and a number of other issues that were very important to society. So definitely look forward to finding out more about some of the things that are going on at that conference, learning more about that conference, and having a great conversation with a number of the folks that are involved. So that is one of the things that is going on that many of us that are paying attention to the IBM TV or International Broadcast Media TV Network might be interested in learning about and what they're doing and all of that. But right now, I'm going to let y'all check out a little bit about some of the shows that are aired here on the network, including Chess Stars and including Talking Upstream. And of course, we've also got the Medical Fridays, which talks about a number of medical issues. So right now, I'm going to put on a commercial about my good friend Sasha and his Chess Stars. Yep, that's a number of the great things that are happening in the community of the International Broadcast Media TV, smart TV for everyone. So definitely check out some of those great programs and all of that. We do know that a number of people are concerned about a number of issues that are taking place here in our world, including some things that are happening right here in the Durham community as well. As a matter of fact, I saw that there was an article in today's newspaper where a area that I have done some work at, being the Hayti Heritage area or the Hayti district of Durham, North Carolina, was definitely having some concerns about things that are going on in their community, and that they feel that they are caught in a crossfire because a number of things are going on in that community. Unfortunately, not some of the best things of the world. There have been a number of shootings in that community, and folks are definitely concerned about their safety and things along those lines. So definitely these are some things that folks are concerned about. As a matter of fact, one of the people that was featured in this article that I was reading, they actually unfortunately had some very serious sadness in their own family because of what has been going on in that community. Hayti, which was once a flourishing hub for the city's black middle class, that a lot of folks are feeling has been neglected for decades in terms of that district and everything. It is definitely one of those districts that was hit by things that were going on in the sense of urban renewal and all of that. Now the neighborhood is among those seeing a citywide surge in shootings. A 23-year-old man was killed on Dawkins Street last month, one of four killings in Durham within a 2-week span. And residents that were interviewed by one of our local newspapers say they want change. They would like to see more financial support from the city. And in some cases, they would even like to see more police presence. As a matter of fact, a Bishop Clarence Laney said that you see the investments that's happened, billions of dollars of investments that are happening in downtown Durham just across the railroad tracks. There is a sense of hopelessness among many people in this community. And Laney, by the way, has been a minister at Monument of Faith Church on Simmons Street for over 30 or for over 25 years. It's one of the at least 10 churches in and around the Hayti district. As a matter of fact, I know that Christ Central, which is now further outside of that district, but has members in that district, used to meet at the Hayti Heritage Center, but now they're meeting at another location. But Laney said there are millions of dollars being invested in certain parts of Durham, but in other certain parts of Durham, there seems to be this disinvestment still. So disinvestment. And I think that has to change. There has to be an economic engine in communities in order for them to do well. And definitely, I do think that folks will remember that that used to be a very rich area in terms of economics and all of that. So definitely, we are saying that these things need to be improved and all of that. Says that while homicides are slightly down this year in the city of Durham, shootings have soared. Non-domestic firearm assaults, which includes non-fatal shootings, are up 44% compared to last year and 26% compared to the previous 5-year average. So definitely that is something not just going on here in Durham, but I know that even Sasha was talking about a neighborhood that he is familiar with that was reported on in Canada and everything. So we do know that these are things that are impacting us both here in the Durham community, but also globally and all of that. So definitely we need to have thoughts about that and all of that. And I do know a number of folks have also been pointing toward the leadership from the top as to whether that has been a lack of that in terms of denouncing violence and encouraging folks to understand that definitely Black Lives Matter and all of that. So definitely, I know a lot of folks are wondering about the incentives to create programs to get folks to do better in these times and all of that. So definitely, this is an issue that a lot of folks have been concerned about here in the community of Durham, and I know it's an issue that is a concern globally as well. So definitely, a lot of folks can tell you about remembering when the neighborhoods around Hayti were very flourishing and all of that, and remember a time when those were some very prominent neighborhoods and all of that. So definitely, I know a lot of folks are studying these kind of changes that have been made and all of that. So definitely, matter of fact, in the article, there was a young lady by the name of Vivian Dolores Gunn. She's actually 72. So in a lot of people's minds, she may still be considered young, but even though she's older than I am, because I think of as we're as young as we think we are. That's my attitude toward age and all of that. But the article did say, or one of the quotes that she says is, when urban renewal came in, it destroyed that, meaning the kind of great things that were going on in that community. In the 1960s and early 70s, developers bulldozed swaths of Hayti for Highway 147 and outgrowth of the urban renewal movement when federal dollars built development projects across the nation. So, like I said, that is something that definitely impacted not just Durham, North Carolina, but a number of other places as well. Here in Durham, the freeway displaced over 4,000 homes and 500 businesses, many run by African American families, and that's according to a website called Bull City 150. So definitely, you can go and Google Bull City 150, and you can see some of the things that have gone on in that regards. In a July report to the City Council, Durham's Racial Equity Task Force, called the Urban Renewal Program a seismic tragedy in Black Dermites' lives, with aftershocks reverberating in the Haiti community some 50 years later. Employment has been so prevalent for African Americans that national leaders like Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois came to the area and said, "This is the model of what an African American community could be or should be." And that was according to what a person said in that article. And fast forward to today, a lot of that has been destroyed. You still have a fragmented North Carolina Mutual, but the only entity that has been really prospered and is really strong is North Carolina Central University, citing the historically Black university on Fayetteville Street. The rest of the area has been devastated. So definitely a lot of folks are recognizing that this is a historical community and all of that. And by the way, those quotes were attributed to Lucas, and I'm trying to figure out as I read the article what Lucas that is and everything. Oh, that was a one of the pastors, Pastor William V. Lucas, who is definitely talking about some of the things that they had noticed as well. So definitely do want to give folks the correct attribution when checking on articles that have been placed and everything of that nature. But I do know that these are issues that a lot of folks are concerned about, and it is definitely impacting a number of things that are going on in our community. So while folks are definitely looking forward to trying to find ways to solve these problems, including possibly adding some more money into those communities, we have to find ways that they are done effectively and all of that. So do keep that in mind as we have these conversations around urban renewal, around reinvestment, and along a number of other things like that. So definitely, even Mr. Laney said he would like the police to build relationships or better relationships with the neighborhoods, so that there can be perhaps a level of trust that could exist that doesn't particularly exist now. He doesn't want over policing, he said, or a shot spotter, a gunshot detection system he sees as reactive, sending police to an area only after the incident has occurred, meaning the shooting or whatever other incident that might have been. The city council rejected a free 6 months trial offer at Shot Spotter for similar reasons back in September. So a lot of folks are not necessarily feeling that that will be the solution that folks should be looking for and all of that. Definitely, they are saying that the the amount of sales, even in this district, of firearms have been going up. They said non-domestic firearm assaults in the district are up 33% this year compared to the previous 5 year. So I can only imagine that that means that more people are actually also obtaining weapons and all of this. Police might not be able to stop them, but they can prevent them just by being there in the community, is what one of the local folks said. And a convenience store worker said tighter community bonds could help reduce conflict in the neighborhood. So those are just some of the things that folks are thinking about and some of the concerns that folks have about these kinds of issues that are taking place in our society and throughout the country, because it's not just happening here in Durham. I would argue that it's happening around the nation, around the globe, and in a number of other places as well. So I'm going to go grab a quick glass of water and continue the conversation and all of that. But in the meantime, I'm going to let y'all check out some music. So I'm going to let y'all check out a little bit of music. Y'all know that a while back I had Nelly Tiger Travis on, and of course she did an amazing job in terms of giving me those lovely ladies to talk about music and all of that. So definitely was glad to have them on and to share what their music was all about and to definitely have them engaged in the conversation. So it was a very engaging conversation, and we definitely learned a lot about a number of things that are going on in the music world. Because, like I said, I do love hearing about what's happening in the music world and the different things that ways that the music world is being impacted by what's going on, but also how they are surviving and thriving even in these difficult times. So there are ways that they are doing that. As a matter of fact, Nelly and Dee Dee Simons and a number of those other ladies that were featured are all part of a Christmas album that has come out. So definitely that is good hearing that they are part of this amazing Christmas album and all of that. So definitely looking forward to giving y'all a taste of their music and letting y'all hear a little bit of the great sounds that we heard last week and all. But definitely, I think that y'all are in for a definite treat by hearing some of the sounds of Nelly Tiger Travis. I might also put on some of the Simon, or Simon, I should say, and a few of the other folks that were engaged in that great conversation. So definitely keep that in mind and everything. So definitely looking forward to bringing this great music to y'all so that y'all can check it out and learn more about what is going on in that regard. So definitely looking forward to letting y'all check out some great sounds that I think y'all will thoroughly enjoy. And then, like I said, I know we had a great conversation last Monday revolving around what they are doing and how they are doing in their success and all of that. So definitely look forward to letting y'all check out what Nelly is all about and some of her sounds. So hope that everybody over there is ready to enjoy some great and amazing sounds. So if y'all will just hold on one second, I will try to bring this up and hopefully it will work and cooperate. So like I said, sometimes things like to be more cooperative than at other times. So we're going to see if everything's going to work and how this is going to work and all of that. So definitely, if folks will just hold on, we'll make it happen. We always do. Find one way or another to make these amazing things happen and to give you the treat that y'all deserve. So get ready to do that in a matter of a few seconds. And also, if y'all will just hold on and be patient, we will try to bring that to you in just a matter of a few minutes and all of along those lines. So, like I said, I'm going to go grab that cup of water because things are trying not to be overly cooperative. But while I'm grabbing that cup of water and maybe grabbing the backup instruments here and everything, we will make this happen and we will have a good time in that regard. So if y'all will just hold on one second, we are going to do that and also have some great more conversation. And also I'm going to see if I can't find the rest of my guests also to share with us their thoughts about a number of things that are
Oh yeah. I've been dancing in this club, babe. You've been sitting over there, staring at me like something wrong. I heard you holler, back it up, and you gave me that sexy smile. Baby, you sure look good to me, and I like your style. If I bag it up, what you gonna do? If I put it on you, baby, what you gonna do? If I bag it up, what you gonna do? If I put it on you, baby, what you gonna do? Baby, you're more than welcome. Come out here on the dance floor. Come show me what you're working with. Show me how low can you go. Now you want me to bag it up. Baby, are you serious? Tell me, can you handle it? 'Cause baby, I'm curious. If I bag it up, what you gonna do? If I put it on you, baby, what you gonna do? If I bag it up, what you gonna do? If I put it on you, baby, what you gonna do? Now come on, show me what you working with. Oh yeah, I like it like that. I think you got something there, baby. Come on, get a little closer. Yeah, just like that. If I bag it up, what you gonna do? If I put it on you, baby, what you gonna do? If I bag it up, what you gonna do? If I put it on you, baby, what you gonna do? If I bag it up, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? If I put it on you, baby, I'm gonna put it on you. Gonna do it till you bag it up. What you gonna do? If I put it on you, baby, what you gonna do? If I bag it up, oh, just what like you gonna do? If I put it on you, baby, like what you gonna do? If I bag it up, what you gonna do? If I put it on you, baby. Say, you know, my old man gonna wanna fight. Because all the hours I'll be getting in tonight, but I don't care. The night I'm gonna do as I choose. I'm gonna get my head banged and party on these down home blues. Down home blues. Down home blues. All she wanted to hear was these down home blues all night long. Every other record or two. She said, I'm gonna get my head banged and party on these down home blues. Down home blues. Down home blues. All she wanted to hear was those down home blues all night long. Every other record or two. She says, I'm gonna get my head banged and party on these down home blues. Down home blues. Down home blues. All she wanted to hear was those down home blues all night long. Every other record or two. She says, I'm gonna get my head banged and party on these down home blues. Down home blues. Down home blues. All she wanted to hear was these down home blues all night long.
All right, folks. So that was some great blues music that we were checking out and all of that. So I know a lot of folks were over there enjoying those sounds and definitely seeing what that was all about. So always good to hear some good old fashioned blues music. Break the monotony and to let me get a little bit of water in the system and all of that. So definitely hope that y'all enjoyed the sounds of those down home blues because that's what a lot of us are facing these days. Is sometimes we face those down home blues and have to deal with those on a regular basis. And I know a lot of folks are definitely concerned about a lot of things that are going on in their world and around a lot of things that are even in their personal economies and all of that. Because we do know that we're all facing some hard economic times. And I know that even as I was looking at some of the news notifications that were coming from the world of the news media and all of that, I was seeing that a number of things that a lot of folks have been concerned about are actually coming to fruition. So they're saying that restaurants, unfortunately, are failing by the thousands. That's right. They're saying that that is one of the things that we knew was going to happen and all of that. So definitely there was an article that says that 1 in 6 U.S. restaurants has closed for the long term or gone out of business or definitely facing some hardships because of COVID-19. The National Restaurant Association, appealing to Congress for financial support, has cited using labor and rising labor costs and other costs. So definitely they're saying that the rise in labor and those additional costs are definitely hurting them, and an average sales decline of 36% due to the mandated shutdowns and risk aversion among customers. More than a third of the country's 500,000 operators, whether independent franchises or chains, are expected to close permanently in 6 months unless conditions improve. And they say that indoor dining is set to end in 5 days in New York City unless the COVID hospitalization rates has stabilized. So a lot of folks are very much concerned about how things are going with our restaurant business and all of that. As a matter of fact, there was a person that was a LinkedIn person that was out of Minnesota, and he was saying that here in Minnesota, the governor has recently closed all restaurants and entertainment venues, and this is the second closure this year, and at a time when he was being forced to lay off employees before the holidays. So he's trying to find ways to work out things and to try to find ways to get his employees to at least have some sort of things going on during these holiday times. So definitely, the restaurants are definitely being impacted very um, devastatingly by what is going on and all of that. Another thing that I am always concerned about is mass transit or public transit being one that gets around quite a bit by the buses and things along those lines. And there was a report on that as well. As a matter of fact, one of the editors over there at LinkedIn says that public transportation across the U.S. is in a existential peril as the pandemic's damage lingers on, according to the New York Times. Bus and train services in New York City, Chicago, Boston, Washington, San Francisco, and other major cities are facing profound cuts and the huge financial shortfalls from plunging riderships that are expected to hamper service for years. More cuts are possible early next year, which would further hurt cities' recoveries, and they will likely pose another setback for 2.8 million essential and low wage workers who rely on public transportation. So definitely these are things that we are starting to see and everything. So definitely we're seeing an impact in travel. We're seeing an impact in restaurants. We're seeing an impact in quite a few things that are out there and all of that. Definitely know a lot of folks are paying attention to a number of these things and are trying to find out ways that they can still have a good holidays, even though a lot of things are definitely not helping that whole situation and all of that. And matter of fact, they're also saying that an algorithm shift might actually be hurting the poor and all of that. So it says that low income Americans are bearing the brunt of shifts toward algorithms in credit reporting data and government programs. Karen Howe of MIT Technology Review spoke with attorneys representing income clients fighting for basic needs like housing, education, and healthcare. They say their clients' eligibility battles increasingly involve algorithms that assign people worthiness and lack accountability, making them prone to error. Steele Howe says data driven automation and AI have good potential, and they could have been used during the pandemic to reduce backlogs and modernize unemployment benefit systems. So while they're not saying that that is something that is altogether bad use, they are saying that they needed to do a better job of it than they actually did. So that is something that I know a lot of folks are very much concerned about, and definitely very much interested in learning more about and how they can be involved in all of that. So definitely we'll be keeping track of that and everything along those lines. And by the way, for those that are watching and might be interested, I'm seeing that the Able Games people have reached out to me and might be interested in getting on our Gamers Den. So that is one of the shows that goes on. And while I'm here talking to you folks, I just saw that they have reached out, and I will be reaching out to them as well. So Shatovi will be glad to know that they might be trying to come on to our show in the very near future. So I'll reach out to them and see what they're talking about, because we're always looking for amazing guests and on doing that on a regular basis. So definitely, I just saw that that happened, that they were paying attention to us and seeing what I had to say about getting them on. So I will definitely follow up on that and see whether we can get them on. Who knows? That could even possibly be as early as this week, but we're going to find out how that all plays out and if we can actually get them on the Gamers Den, which is, of course, our show that we do about video games here on the International Broadcast Media Television. So definitely keep that in mind, that that might be something that folks might be checking out and interested in checking out in the very near future. I know we've got a diversity lady coming on that show. I want to say that that is on the 17th, which will not be this week on Thursday, but the following Thursday. So we're definitely looking forward to that great conversation as well. So we're going to see how this all plays out as we keep trying to find more amazing guests and all of that. So definitely there are some what is going on with the pandemic and all of that. So there definitely is some good news in the space of African American businesses, and along those lines, that is great news. The Wall Street Journal points to a convergence of factors behind the investment increase, including the venture capital industries reckoning on race after George Floyd's death and subsequent protests. Also, lockdowns have made investors easier to reach via video calls and social media. Rate My Investor data shows that 77% of founders of active U.S. startups that received venture capitals from 2013 to 2017 were white. Only 1% were African American. African American women founders, especially, are starting to break through. According to a study by the nonprofit Digital Undivided, 34 Black women have raised $1 million or more in outside investments for their startups in 2018. And by August of 2020, more than 90 African American women are expected to hit or beat that milestone. So definitely looks like a number of folks are going to be finding some money from venture capitals and all of that. So seeing some statistics that are definitely some improved statistics, but folks also did let folks know that there are some other concerns around that, because it says that the figures for Black startup founders receiving VC or venture capital are grisly, worse than or as bad as representatives at big tech companies. So we are seeing that while there are some breakthroughs, that there are still some serious concerns as well. And they did say that they acknowledge that folks are finding these sites and everything, and definitely are starting to give some money. So we are seeing some things that are improvement, but of course, more improvements need to be made. That was kind of the point of the last point that I was making, is that we do need more improvements to be made. Don't just stop because we've made some strides, because sometimes you make some cracks in the glass ceiling, but we need to find ways to we can get those cracks even greater and all of that. So definitely, like I said, we're glad to see some of the reports that are of a positive nature, but we would like them to continue going in that direction. It's always important that we stay in those directions whenever we have the opportunity, and not just go in one direction and not have it go on a consistent basis. I do believe in consistency. Consistency is a very important in all the things that we do in life, and I definitely think that this is a case in point as well. So definitely, if folks are interested in learning more, then I'll definitely be sharing this on other shows, and of course, I'll be trying to get other folks onto the show to also talk about these very important issues that are going on in our community and all of that. So definitely hoping that folks will be paying attention to that and learning more and more about these great things that are happening in our society, even during difficult times. We know that sometimes some of the best inventions have happened during difficult times, and that's just something we have to keep in mind, is a way to still maintain and have some very positive messages, even when things might not be going quite the way we want, either economically or in the world as a whole. So definitely, I know a lot of folks are thinking that the vaccine, which is being rolled out, will make us get back to a more normal state. But these things do take time, so I don't expect that it's going to be an overnight cure. And I do know that even here in North Carolina, there is talk that if figures don't start sliding back down, and because they have been spiking recently, that there might be another one of those extensive kinds of lockdowns and things of that nature still in play. So, like I said, I know the governor has said all things are still being considered, including that possibility. And I know a number of folks would not be happy with that in the least bit, but we were going to find out whether that is the case or not, or whether that happens or not. I do know that there are a number of folks that definitely are hoping that that is not the case, that we do not have to go back to like those really tight kind of restrictions. But we also want to be safe, and if the numbers are not going in the way we would like them to go, then we might have to consider doing that, whether we want to or don't. So definitely, I know a lot of folks are probably paying attention to that and seeing what they can do in that regard. So that's just some of the things that are happening in our world, and we're definitely going to be paying attention to it and seeing what happens in that regard. So definitely, I know a lot of folks are thinking about these on a regular basis, just like they're thinking about a number of the other things that are going on in their community. As a matter of fact, if you're watching and you've got comments about what's happening in your part of the world, don't hesitate to drop those comments on the screen and let me know what's on your mind and all of that, because we do love hearing from our listeners and hearing what they are involved in, what they are doing, and what they've got on their mind. So if you've got thoughts about a number of the things that we've talked about, even if you got thoughts about Ireland, maybe you visited Ireland and had some thoughts about that country. It was my great pleasure to have JJ, a fellow radio person, on the air talking about his background in the radio and his background in all that he has done in that field. And speaking of folks that I have a great deal of respect for and all of that, I'm going to put on a spot for my good friend Brandon, who does his travel show, and that'll be coming your way on tomorrow. So let's check out what Brandon's show is all about.
My name's Brandon. I'm a world traveler, foodie, and YouTuber. Together, you and I will find the best travel hacks, tips, and best places to explore. Join me as we find new adventures together, live only on IBM.TV.
Now, I can tell you one thing. That was a very lively discussion that Nick, one of the founders of IBM TV, along with Shaquille and Rakesh and Sasha had earlier today on Economics Monday. They were definitely having some very lively conversation around some thoughts around the issues of the stimulus package and whether the amount of money that folks have been getting has been enough or not, and also around whether more money should have been given, and also around the concept of whether the businesses should have gotten support that they've gotten or should have gotten it in different ways and all of that. It was definitely very lively and a very interesting conversation. And I definitely learned a lot about their thoughts and about their views on that. I've got some views of my own as well, but it was definitely a very interesting conversation that was heard earlier today on Economics Monday. So definitely I heard a lot of folks talking about the impact of this money and whether it was enough money, and also whether it was even enough to get food supplies and things along that line. So definitely some great conversation was had in that regard, and I know a number of people were paying attention to that and thinking about what they were saying and putting their own thoughts into it and all of that. So definitely looking forward to having more folks engaged in that conversation on a regular basis. So definitely on Monday nights, Monday afternoons, you can definitely hear those conversations, and they can definitely be quite interesting and quite lively. So like I said, definitely Shaquille was having his viewpoint shared, as was Nick, and they were both getting their points across, I believe. And Rakesh was also talking about it as well. So those are just some of the folks. I did not recognize all of the people that were involved in that conversation, but I can tell you that it was definitely a lively conversation, and folks were definitely engaged in it and definitely enjoying what was going on at that time. So definitely glad to have folks involved and learning more about what they've got going on and all of that. So I'm actually about to send a link to Miss Kim and see if she wants to pop in and talk to us about some of the things that are going on and all of that. I think that she might have enjoyed some of the things that were happening with Ireland and some of the conversations that I was having with the Irish community. And definitely, so I'm about to reach out to her and send her that link and everything. So hopefully she can get this link and join the show and see what's happening in that regard. So we're definitely going to look forward to that. And hopefully she'll also be telling us a little bit more about what has been happening with that World Leader Summit. I know that I watched some of it this morning and was quite impressed with what I heard and what I learned, because there was a number of things that I did not know about the World Leader Summit. And like I said, I'm not saying I know others were saying this as well, that I'm the biggest fan of Bitcoins and all of that, but I did learn more than I ever knew before about some of these things and how they play out. So definitely was very interesting joining that conversation, and well, not in the sense of being talking on it, but just listening. This is one of the cases where I actually got to listen, and I did learn more than I knew about Bitcoins and cryptocurrencies and all of that. So it was very interesting having that conversation or listening to that conversation, and there was a number of things that were shared, and of course there's a number of other things that will also be shared on that as well. So definitely it was a enlightening conversation, and I know a number of folks who were probably learning a lot that they were already not aware of. So definitely it was interesting hearing that and hearing what folks had to say about what was going on. So definitely folks can possibly pop in there and check out what's happening in that regards. But we'll see if Kim shows up or does not. But definitely looking forward to seeing if she wants to join the last few minutes before I hopefully have a conversation with my friend Ronnie Warner, who's a filmmaker, and I'm hoping that he will pop in the very near future. So definitely if folks are wanting to pop in and gain a little bit more conversation about what's happening in our world, I'm sure that the number of things have been shared about how things are going in our community and all of that. So definitely pass that word on to folks, and we'll see if if they are able to make it or not. But definitely that is some of the things that are happening here in our world. And I know a number of folks are also paying attention to the sports community also. So definitely number of things have been going on in that regards. I think my fantasy football team is down by like 20 points. But the good news is I found out that even though my quarterback was on bye, I could still use them. So I'm going to get like 16 or 17 points from the quarterback being on the bye and all of that. And then I'm going to get some additional points from other things that are happening in that regards as well. So definitely looking forward to hearing about that and seeing what's going to happen. If I'll pull off the victory, I'm the number 6 seed, so I'm not expecting to win this thing at all. But we're just going to see if it plays out and if I'm able to pull off a miracle or not. I see that Kim has popped in, so we're going to see what Kim's got going on in her world as we talk there and talk to people and all of that. So I don't know if Kim's got her TV on or not, but there's Kim and everything. I see that I've got the screen on, but I don't see her. But we'll see what's going on. Maybe I'll just chit chat with her off chat camera and everything. But definitely, if folks are interested in learning more as to the things that are going on, that I know a number of folks will love to learn more about that. But as I was saying, on the fantasy football front, I know that I'm down by 20 points, but Tom Brady is my quarterback, and I'm able to play him because of a rule that was put into effect. So that is a wonderful thing, is that I'm able to play him and get the average of his points. So I think I'll get like 18 points. So that'll narrow my depth. I just don't need Baltimore's defense to collapse. So Dean, if you're watching, if you've got any pull with that, Dean is, by the way, the guy that I do my audio podcast with, then I do not need the Baltimore defense to collapse, and maybe I'll have a good shot, and I don't need his players to go off, because I think he's got 3 players left, and I might have 3 left as well. But I do have a defense and a quarterback, so hopefully that will help me in that line and everything, and I'll be able to at least make it to the next round. So we're going to see what happens. I know last year, I think I got a little bit of cash and everything. Have never won the championship. My brother has won, but I have never won. And I had some great players. So I'm hoping that we will get a chance to pop in there and have that go on and everything. So definitely looking forward to learning more about that. And there's Miss Kim Calhoun. So I'm going to pop in there and see what Kim's talking about. Hey, Kim, I'm just rambling on about the sports world and my fantasy football team. Did you get a chance at all to listen to the Irish radio guy? Because he was fascinating on my first hour, but I had a gentleman on that is a Irish radio guy from Dublin. So we had a listener and somebody who was talking all the way from Dublin. So he goes, JJ is his name. I met him on LinkedIn, and he came in and shared a little bit about a sport that I did not know. It actually got a little confused because he was talking about hurling, and I thought he was talking about curling. But I found out through the conversation with him and looking up things online, we actually have a triangle curling and a triangle hurling association here in the area. I did not know we had those, but apparently we have those associations right here in North Carolina. And apparently the hurling association is having a meeting on this weekend, because that's one of the things that I mentioned to him, was that they were having a meeting, I guess a general interest meeting. But I didn't know that. I did know about the curling association because I think they've had a couple of games before the pandemic, but I did not know we had hurling, and I've never attended either one of them. So have you ever been to either one of those sports?
Actually, I think I've been to hurling because I used to go to the Celtic games.
Okay.
So if he's Irish, you say, or Scottish?
Irish. He's Ireland.
I'm Scottish, but I used to go to the Celtic and Highland games here in North Carolina and in Virginia. So yeah, I've heard. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I didn't know that you were of Scottish background, but there's an amazing band that I saw. I think their name is Altenbach or something like that. But they actually played at the Eno years ago, and they had the big kettle drums, and they were from Scotland. And literally, they were going from the Eno. You know, the Eno is in July. They were going from the Eno to the Highland games that you're talking about. So that was part of their tour stop, and they were just truly amazing because they had the big bang drums and all of that going on, and folks were just truly amazed by the sound that they had.
Oh, I love it. I love the dancing. I love the music. I love the food. Everything is so much fun at those celebrations. It's just one of those events that I've always enjoyed going to. We actually haven't been in a couple of years because it is quite a journey. And the big Highland Games at Grandfather Mountain is usually dead in the middle of the summer, right? So
Exactly.
it is hot as the dickens. and not enjoyable because it's just, but that particular one, people from all over the world come
Right.
into that one. We here in North Carolina, we have several Highland Games,
Mhm.
one in the Triad area, which has always been a lot of fun to go to. So yeah, you got to try Celtic dancing sometime, Mark.
No, I keep telling all those people that do specialty dancing that I'm gonna try their dancing because I know every year at Cinefest when there was a live event, there would be the tap dancers there. There would be like the Irish jig folks and a number of other specialty kind of dancers, and I would always be amazed at the way that they were moving. And I'd always tell them that I was going to eventually get out there and do those dance steps, but then I realized I didn't have the right insurance, so I would kind of back off of it and everything. But
The
so
right insurance. I want
but
to
I've
take.
actually been doing good with dancing because, like I told you before, I've joined the Daybreakers group, which is a group of folks around the world that is dance music, and they usually would do them at the daytime. That's why it's called Daybreakers, and they would do it. They would take over like a building and do like these really fun events. But they've done virtual events. So we actually this past weekend had the pleasure of watching Home Alone. So it was a group of folks that do like breakout events and they do like some yoga classes, some dance classes, and a number of other things. But I think it was either Friday or Saturday night. We sat there, about 10 of us, and watched the Home Alone movie, the original one, and then we made a couple of comments afterwards. But it was a fun event. It was like one of those virtual events. So I heard you talking about virtual events, and I know we got a major one, but I heard you talk about that earlier today on the world news and everything. And I've just been amazed at the virtual events that have been going on. I was watching my hometown, well, the town that Durham's considered a hometown because it's where I spent most of my life at. But there was a town that for about 10 years or so, 10, 15 years, called Warrenton. And Warrenton I also consider as one of my hometowns as well. And they did a virtual Christmas celebration yesterday. So they actually did that yesterday, and it was beautiful. They had, this will shock you, the opening person was our governor. So that's it. The lady that organized it managed to get the governor to do this warm greeting about this whole event. So he did like a greeting, and then there was the because there was a quilt group that's up there. Brooke Simpson, who is I think of Halawa descent, but was on one of those American Idol contests. She was she gave a greeting. There was a number of folks that gave greetings, but then there were also folks that did things. They even had like some chefs that cooked up some dishes and everything. So it was a truly great event. And then, like I said, I did attend the virtual movie night with the Daybreaker folks. So just these virtual events have been great. And I know that we've got one because I mentioned it earlier, and I mentioned the coupon code. Unfortunately, I didn't have the tape to play, but I do know that we've got the World Leader Summit. Because I was up this morning watching things about Bitcoin, and I know that that's been some amazing conversations.
Well, and you know what? You can watch it for free on IBM TV. And if you miss the live event by, not able to go in and register, you can definitely watch it on IBMTV.tv. And, that way you can kind of pick and choose when you get to watch it. You're not in a rush, get something to drink and chill out and just, and enjoy it. Or you can register. And when you do, even though it's free now, please utilize our code so that we get credit for this.
Right.
But it's WLSIBMTV. That's WLSIBMTV. But you know what, Mark, I don't have much time to watch a lot of things lately, but I'm going to try to watch this. But I ended up watching the Christmas Chronicles too over the weekend. Like, I mean, I don't get to watch a lot of TV or movies, but it happened to be a gift from a friend, so we watched it because it's on Netflix. I think, I don't know if it's free, but it's the new one. Okay. Here's what's interesting, right? It was filmed specifically to be aired for 2020.
Oh, wow.
But apparently they probably, when they were filming it and producing it, that there wasn't masks, right. The pandemic, but based on the release and everything. But it was really weird to sit there and watch somebody go, no, I can't take this because the year is 2020. It was a dollar bill, right? And then it said 2020 on it. Because that just felt weird to hear somebody say, we're in, it was just odd. But the movie was cute. It had Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell, which they're married. Mm-hmm. But it is so hard to believe she's 75 years old. Oh my gosh.
I'll tell you another one that's hard to believe. And she had a special. I was going to watch it, but I didn't watch it. I may go back and watch it in rerun. But I can't believe that, to be as old, Dolly is doing really well maintaining herself. Like I said, Dolly Parton is doing amazingly well maintaining herself. And she did a Christmas special yesterday.
Yeah. How old is that? Well, she is rocking amazing. Raquel Welch too, but another one of my favorites who just seemed like she never aged is Sally Fields.
Oh, yeah.
Right? She just looks fantabulous. And she did a movie a couple years ago. I thought, gosh, she still looks like a kid. But yeah, these women, they're aging fantabulous. I don't know.
They're aging totally well and everything. And I'm quite impressed with the way that they've aged and everything. So, and it's been, but you've not done too bad yourself either, Miss Ken and everything. And I did want to just bring in real quickly. Steve had popped into a pub.
Hey, sorry, I don't know what happened. I apologize. It wasn't working on my end, so I apologize.
Don't worry,
no
I came and covered. So
yeah, no
I don't know what's going on, but it was the same error message I kept getting the first time we tried it. So I don't know. I'll have to reboot my computer, but maybe we should do a test next time because I had it on my calendar.
Oh, that's okay. Like I said, I had the Irish musician, and he was from Dublin, so he's actually from the world of radio. So I kind of wanted you to meet him because he was talking about the world of radio, and a lot of things, Kim, I learned are the same. Like they also have some umbrella organizations that are their charge of radio and everything, and they've also got some of the same people that are coming up from the ground up, like from community radio into commercial radio, because he's actually working in commercial radio, but then he was also talking about some of his training. And like I said, we talked about sports. We even talked about hope that's all right with the network, but we did talk about beer and what kind of beers he likes and everything, because he is from Ireland. So we covered beer and we covered dishes that he also likes. So we've covered a lot of conversation around Ireland.
And my favorite is corned beef and cabbage.
Well, Mark, I really apologize. I just didn't want to offend you or anything. So,
you're good. No, you're good. Like I said, I know how to roll with things.
We're like a family here. We know things happen. That's why when I found out you weren't going to make it, I beamed in to help out. So
you know what it was? Why that link said error message? It kept saying error message and would take me to a homepage. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know. There's sometimes technology.
Are you using Google or Explorer?
Google Chrome.
You shouldn't have that problem, but and Mark, I don't know, but you were having problems the other day. Systems overload because it is holiday and more people are at home, and more people are using the bandwidth to visit with families. So, but Mark, another thing I noticed was we had that Zoom meeting in the morning. Mm-hmm. And I know that Zoom doesn't interface very well with our system. So if it's still on your computer, so I forgot to do the same thing, and I was having the same thing. My sound was going in and out. So I just, I was like, what is it? And so I looked down and saw, and I removed Zoom, and it's fixed. So I always have to, after we have our meetings on Zoom, I have to remember to remove it from my system. So
definitely.
I got your bio from LinkedIn, so I'll send that to the radio because I want to have Kimberly on.
Looking forward to that, definitely.
I guess I can come next week on Monday if you need me.
Yeah, I would love to do that and everything. Just real quick, because we're ready to wrap up the radio show, and I got to jump on my other one, Mullins Music and Memories. And I think my friend Ron is going to be popping in on that, but I may need y'all as backup for that as well. But I know my good friend Ronnie, who produced Christmas, is supposed to be my special guest, along with several of our creative people, because I've asked Brandon to show up because I know he's a creative person, and I've asked the Talking Upstream guys to show up. So hopefully everybody shows up, but I won't know that for another 10 or 15 minutes.
Mark do a Santa Claus reading with his nice little beard.
Yeah. Well, Brian and them still want to do stuff in that regard. Brian and them still want to do that with us, so we got to have that meeting.
We got to get up with them. I've just been overwhelmed with a lot of recent work, but I appreciate you keeping shows going.
Oh, yeah, no problem at all.
Texting in the mornings and giving us some love and support. And, Mark, I love your show. If I can't be on it, I like to listen to it. So,
well, I do appreciate both of you for being on and everything. I did have a quick question for Steve. I was getting ready to ask, and then we're going to wrap everything up, and I'm going to jump over to Mullins. And hopefully Ronnie will be there, my good friend that is the producer of this Christmas. So definitely we're going to have that happen in a minute. But my quick question for you, Steve, is innovations. What are some of the major innovation things that are happening that you can give us a teaser about it. I might have you jump on the other link, and I'm gonna bring that other link up. So keep your email open. So I might bring you into the other 4-7 meeting as well. But what are some of the innovation things that folks should be watching for? If you can give us some clues in the next few minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, I think the most important innovation to watch for is obviously nothing new, but artificial intelligence in terms of the way it's used. I mean, I'll give you a specific example. In North Carolina, there's a company named Tonjo run by Richard Boyd, and he's using artificial intelligence and data to create COVID-19 brains for cities and communities and community college systems. So you can use predictive analytics to start making decisions, no different than a marketing department would make, in terms of how they're selling to consumers, where, what's the vaccine rollout going to be like? Where are the hot spots for the vaccine? Is there patterns we can see with social distancing numbers? Are there, or where people are staying in or where they're going, so that cities can make better decisions and data can be used to address the blind spot. So that's an example of what I would call artificial intelligence or machine learning. The other innovation that I would look for as someone listening to the show is how artificial intelligence can be used for basic repetitive things like calling the DMV or calling a pharmaceutical company, for example, if you have questions about their drug, whether it's COVID-19 test kits or the vaccine, right? Imagine having a virtual chatbot that could answer your question, that could recognize your voice. So the next time Marc Lee or Steve Rao called, it would automatically know who we are. And what that does, Mark, is for the companies, it helps them increase their revenue, because pharmaceutical companies, most of their products, they lose revenue by people on specifically chronic disease drugs where there's no cure, right? But think of what it does for the customer. How many of us avoid going to the DMV? How many of us dread doing our renewal of our license registration? How many of us have called and been on hold for 5 hours? And I know everyone's nodding their head. Imagine if we could take that 5 hours and make it 2 minutes. How much happier we would be, right?
Oh, that'd be totally great. I agree with you on that. And definitely there's some amazing things that are happening in that regards and everything. And I know a lot of folks are definitely looking forward to learning more about the innovations and everything. So definitely I agree with you that there's so many things that we're not knowing about. Like even I always get confused, and maybe you can explain a little bit to the folks that are watching right now. I always get AI and VR confused. And I know that they're separate, but if you could just give like a quick rundown as to the difference between AI and VR, because I know one is virtual reality, the other is artificial intelligence, but they seem very similar to me. So I'm not sure what the difference is.
Yeah, artificial intelligence is basically using data, and it sort of comes on with machine learning, where the machine becomes intuitive and can pick up things. So it's AI machine learning, where the computer is becoming intuitive, and through the data and analytics can start helping customers make decisions of who they're going to sell to. They can see patterns. You can leverage this data even for smart cities. And so that's sort of where it is. Virtual reality, before we go into the other show, is like, looking at, a virtual reality simulation where you're going into another environment and they're taking images and whatever, and you can actually behave and train. So this is being used in sports, in military training, and simulation training, right? That's augmented reality, right? So these are the kinds of technologies that are out there. And, we can do this every other week, where I can come in and talk about these different innovations. And of course, you've got deep learning, you've got, cybersecurity. But these things are, the bottom line, Mark, is that a lot of times we get so caught in the technology, we forget that these technologies are just solving problems. And they're technologies that haven't been reinvented or invented. They've existed for a long time. When we go into a store and we buy something, why is it that automatically we get an email saying, "Thank you for coming"? You're like, how do they get my information? Well, Google and all these tools are pulling that analytics.
Yeah, and QR codes are truly amazing, and we can talk about that on the other show as well. Because, like I said, I know a friend of mine was doing some research on QR codes, and they get so much information, whether that's your history, whether that's a number of other things. But it's good in some ways, but I guess some people are also concerned about it because it sometimes feels like they have too much information of us and everything at their disposal, whoever us is, whether that's the government or whether that's whatever. But I do know that sometimes people are overly concerned about having that amount of knowledge. Because I know one time, even on one of our other shows, I was talking to Katal about that, how I've been over the last several, I'd say probably years, putting in addresses into my address book. And sometimes after I finish it and I hit enter, the person's picture will come up, and I'm going like, I didn't have that on the business card, but Google already had that information.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll be there in about 15 minutes. I've got a call, but I'll be coming in for 15 minutes to a few minute segment. I thank all
Sounds
the
good.
viewers for listening. I'm a little dressed down. I'm going for my 5K run in about 25-degree weather.
Hey,
So,
I've got on my Marquette alumni shirt. Well, my Marquette
well, I was
leather
all
shirt.
dressed up. I was all dressed up. And by the way, the last thing I'll end with, and I think there's a story upon a story here. Today was the first day in the last 20 years that I've forgotten that it's Pearl Harbor. And the reason I forgot it's Pearl Harbor is because so much of the conversation is about COVID and the vaccine and the presidential election. And in the Raleigh newspaper, I'll show you real quick. There was just a small little segment about Pearl Harbor. And I tell you, it just got me to thinking that, we got to start reporting on other stuff than this COVID-19, right? Because we got to
I
live.
heard you talk about that, and that's one of the things I'm going to ask you about on the other show, because I heard you mentioning your love and the growth of cricket, which I had not known as being a growing sport.
Well,
but when I had the guy from Ireland on, he was talking about curling and hurling, and I realized that there's a curling and a hurling association here in the Triangle, and those are two separate sports, one more Irish than the other.
Well, I'll be there in 15 minutes, my friend, and I want to just for a few minutes, and then we'll, but I want to thank all the viewers for listening, and Mark and I are going to be working together, and I'm going to be bringing them on my radio show. So thank you, folks. It's great to be with Marc Lee as always.
Sounds great. So looking forward to it, and I'll get Zach over on the other side, Zach from Talking Upstream, and I'm waiting for my other friends. So we're going to have a great conversation, and I'll see you over there shortly. So that's going to wrap up the radio show with Marc Lee, and I'm getting ready to start the All right, as I was saying, that wraps up this particular edition of the show, but I'm going to move over to the other one, and I'm going to see my friend Ronnie isn't over there, but I see some of my other guests are over there. We're going to have a nice conversation, and we're going to get that one started very shortly. So Mullins Music and Memories is about to start in just a matter of a minute or so. So hopefully that y'all enjoyed this show.